Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today we're diving deep into a topic that's not just growing, it's accelerating fast. The market for autonomous cars as products, or CaaP. Our mission, well, is to unpack these incredible growth projections, figure out the key forces shaping the future of self-driving vehicles, as consumer products. We're pulling insights from the autonomous car market, a global growth forecast by Cognitive Market Research. And honestly, you want to hear this. We're looking at a global market exploding from, just over $9 billion in 2021.
Yeah, around there.
To projected $115 billion by 2033.
A massive jump.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's really explore what's driving this transformation. So let's kick off with those core global numbers. We mentioned $9.15 billion globally in 2021. The source projects, it'll surge to an incredible $115.31 billion by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 23.5%.
And that figure, 23.5%.
Yeah, it's huge. Imagine an investment growing by nearly a quarter every single year for over a decade.
Exactly. That's the kind of momentum we're seeing. And that transformative growth phase the report mentions, it isn't just about impressive figures on a page.
Right.
It really signifies a kind of dual revolution happening.
Yeah.
On one hand, it reflects the relentless technological innovation. AI, advanced sensing systems, making these cars smarter, more capable, almost daily.
Sure, the tech side.
But just as crucially, it points to this growing acceptance of autonomous mobility by actual consumers. People aren't just, curious anymore. They seem increasingly ready. Ready for the convenience, the potential safety benefits.
The promise of it all.
Exactly. And that shift in mindset, that's a really powerful force here. Plus, this global surge is also fueled by other key forces. We can't forget that.
Like what?
Well, substantial supportive infrastructure investments globally. These are absolutely essential for the cars to work smoothly, safely.
You mean like smart roads, V2X comms?
Precisely. Things like that. So it's this powerful combination. You've got the cutting-edge tech meeting, real-world readiness and infrastructure.
That's a great point. It's not just the car. It's the whole ecosystem around it.
Oh.
Now, the growth outlook is obviously immense, but the report does mention challenges. Right?
Oh, absolutely. They're still there.
Things like the high upfront cost, the need for clear regulations which vary everywhere.
Big hurdle, that one.
And, of course, building widespread public trust. How do these things factor in, given such an optimistic forecast?
That's a crucial question. And these hurdles are significant, no doubt. But the sheer scale of the projected growth suggests, either the industry is finding ways to overcome them pretty actively,
or the demand is just that strong.
Or the demand is just pushing past them. For instance, maybe increasing production scales will bring down costs eventually. And successful pilot programs, positive experiences, they definitely help build that public confidence over time.
Right.
Plus, different regions are tackling these challenges in their own ways, which brings us to some really interesting regional differences.
Okay, yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting, looking at how different parts of the world are embracing this, the unique stories. Let's start with North America. Their market was already pretty big, $3.22 billion in 2021. Forecasted to swell to, get this, $38.86 billion by 2033.
Wow.
That's more than a tenfold increase. Really shows the readiness, the investment happening there.
And within North America, Canada is actually a real standout.
Oh, yeah. How so?
It's on track to grow from under $500 million in 21 to nearly $6.5 billion by 2033. That's a 25% annual growth rate. Impressive.
Higher than the average.
Yeah, and that faster pace, it often points to specific things, maybe government support for testing or, early adopter communities being less resistant.
Interesting. And Mexico, also showing significant growth from about $100 million in 2021 to over $1 billion by 2033.
Still strong growth.
Yeah, the absolute numbers are smaller, but that consistent growth, around 21% CAGR, highlights, growing interest and adoption potential there too.
Okay, shifting over to Europe, this market is also scaling dramatically. Projected jump from $2.61 billion in 21 to over $31 billion by 2033.
Very similar overall growth pace to North America, actually. Around 23% CAGR.
Right? Shows that strong, consistent commitment across the board.
And Germany, no surprise there. It's clearly a key player in Europe.
Given their auto industry.
Exactly. Set to grow from nearly $500 million in 21 to over $5.7 billion by 2033. But what's also notable is that other big European economies like France...
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
But what's also notable is that other big European economies like France and Italy, they're keeping pace, maintaining over 23% growth.
Italy's expected to hit nearly $3.5 billion.
That's right. It really speaks to a broad regional commitment, not just one or two countries. And beyond those major players, you see countries like Russia, Spain, Switzerland.
And the Nordic nations, Sweden, Denmark, all showing solid momentum. Their average growth rates are pretty tightly clustered, 22% to 24%. It signals a really widespread embrace of autonomous tech across the continent.
Even smaller nations contributing.
Yeah, even places like Luxembourg are adding to the total, showing just how pervasive this trend is becoming in Europe. Rest of Europe adds over $1 billion too.
Okay, now if we're talking high growth zones, Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
That really stands out in the report.
Definitely a high growth zone.
Climbing from $2.19 billion in 2021 to a massive $30.15 billion by 2033.
And look at that CAGR.
One of the highest globally, right?
Right.
24.43%.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is, yes, China's leadership role, it's projected to become a $10 billion market. Huge jump from around $750 million.
Fastest.
But then you have India. Truly explosive growth there.
I saw that number, yeah.
Scaling from about $340 million to nearly $5.8 billion. That CAGR is one of the highest regionally, 26.55%.
Wow, why such rapid growth there?
Well, it's likely not just population. It often reflects, aggressive government policies supporting smart city initiatives, a very tech-forward consumer base, things that might help leapfrog some of those infrastructure hurdles we talked about earlier.
Makes sense. And it's not just China and India.
No.
No, not at all. Other significant players like Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, each expected to cross the billion-dollar mark by 2033.
A lot of key tech hubs there.
Exactly. Plus, you've got regions like Southeast Asia, Taiwan, the rest of APAC, all growing steadily. They add over $3 billion combined to the market by 2033.
It really paints a picture of a diverse but rapidly expanding landscape across the whole region.
Okay, moving south. South America, also on a significant growth path. Projected lead from just over $500 million in 2021.
To nearly $7 billion by 2033. Another strong CAGR, over 24%.
And who's leading there?
Brazil and Argentina are clearly the dominant contributors in South America, expected to reach nearly $3 million and $1.5 billion respectively by 33. Their strong performance suggests they're kind of key markets for early AV adoption there, maybe due to urban density, growing tech-savvy populations, that sort of thing.
Right. And it's not just the biggest economies again. No, you see Colombia, Peru, Chile, also contributing meaningful growth.
Yeah.
Average annual growth rates between 23% and 25%.
Shows a pretty broad South American embrace of this mobility shift.
Okay, let's check the Middle East. The report shows robust expansion there, too, growing from under $300 million in 2021 to almost $4 billion by 2033.
Yeah, another compelling growth story. A CAGR of nearly 25%.
Which countries are driving that?
Well, the source highlights key countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the UAE, Egypt, Qatar, each set to go past the $500 million mark by 2033.
Their growth rates.
Particularly striking, really high CAGRs ranging from about 24.8% up to 25.6%.
What's behind that rapid adoption?
Could be linked to significant infrastructure projects, big smart city developments, and just generally a very forward-looking approach to adopting new tech in those nations.
Okay. And lastly, Africa. Set for solid growth as well, rising from $348 million in 2021 to over $4.4 billion by 2033.
Right.
Demonstrates a burgeoning market. Lots of potential.
A CAGR just under the global average at 23.44%, but still very strong. Nigeria and South Africa are the leading contributors there, expected to bring in over $3.6 billion combined by 2033.
Makes sense. Larger economies, urban populations.
Exactly. Likely key test beds for autonomous solutions, maybe needing adaptation for different environments, but the consistent growth across the continent, even in the rest of Africa category, reaching over $800 million.
Shows it's not just a niche trend limited to a few spots.
Precisely.
So bringing all these numbers, all these regions together, what does this all mean for you, our listener, as we connect these dots?
Well, what it really means is the data just unequivocally shows that autonomous vehicles aren't some far-off futuristic concept anymore.
Right.
They are rapidly becoming a defining force in future mobility today. This isn't niche, it's global. It's fundamentally reshaping our transportation landscape. Driven by those relentless tech advancements we talked about, the ongoing infrastructure work, and critically, those evolving consumer expectations. People wanting more convenience, more safety, maybe more efficiency in getting around.
Yeah.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, The overall scale and speed of this global transformation are, frankly, unprecedented. It's
Yeah.
going to impact everything from owning a car to how our cities are even designed.
So to summarize for you,
Yeah.
the autonomous car market, it's undergoing this immense global expansion, fundamentally reshaping transportation, how we think about getting from A to B.
It's a rapid evolution, not slow progress.
Definitely.
Which, it raises an important question, something maybe for you to think about. Given this projected $115 billion market by 2033 and the huge growth we've seen across literally every continent, what broader implications might this rapid adoption have, things beyond just the driving itself? Like, how might it impact urban planning, infrastructure demands going forward, even our daily routines? Think about public transit, real estate values, maybe even where people choose to live and work if commuting changes drastically.
A lot to consider there for sure. Food for thought. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of autonomous technology. We hope you feel a little more well-informed. Keep exploring. Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're looking at something that could totally change your drive to work, maybe even what's sitting in your garage. Will your next car actually drive itself? And maybe, just maybe, will you even own it? We're diving into this idea of the autonomous car as a product, or CAE. It's moving beyond just cool experiments to something you might actually buy.
Exactly. And our mission today, looking at sources like cognitive market research, is really to get straight to the point. We want to explore what's really...
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Research is really to get straight to the point. We want to explore what's really pushing this change, what roadblocks are popping up, some might surprise you, and what CAE actually means for you. We'll try to boil down the key stuff so you're up to speed fast.
Okay, so this shift from like a concept car to a real product. What specific tech breakthroughs are making it happen now? Not just, theoretically.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how far things have come. Cognitive market research highlights these huge leaps in AI and sensors. We're talking better LiDAR. It maps everything with like centimeter level accuracy now, radar that sees in bad weather, computer vision that's learned from billions of real road miles, and AI making instantaneous decisions to handle really tricky situations. This isn't just small steps. It's a real fundamental change. It's what's making these cars genuinely practical, pushing them towards being actual products.
Right, practical. And it's not only the hardware and software, right?
Yeah.
I feel like what people want is changing too, beyond just neat features.
Oh, absolutely. What's really grabbing people isn't just safety, though, that's huge. It's getting rid of the mental load of driving. Think about getting back hours of your day or just being able to chill on your commute. Things like hands-free driving, automatic parking, avoiding crashes. These are becoming things people almost expect now, not just bonuses. Plus, you've got governments actually helping shape things. Smart city projects in North America, Europe, special test zones in Asia. They're building the foundation, the rules and roads that CAPE needs to really take off.
Okay, but even with all that cool tech, getting CAPE everywhere, it's not exactly smooth sailing, is it? There are some pretty big bumps. The first one seems obvious, the price tag, that sticker shock. We're not just talking expensive parts, are we?
Exactly. That's a massive roadblock, the cost. It's not only the fancy LiDAR units, it's the billions spent on R&D, developing the AI, mapping cities in super high detail, proving it's safe in endless situations. That huge investment keeps CAPE pretty much in the luxury market for now, raises questions about who can actually afford it.
And then there's the whole legal mess. Sounds like a lawyer's paradise and maybe an insurer's worst nightmare, honestly. How are companies even dealing with all the different rules around the world?
That's such a critical point. The global rulebook is, well, it's really murky. Think about who's legally responsible if there's an accident, especially if the car crosses borders or state lines while driving itself. Who pays? Who's at fault? These big unknowns make it really hard to sell these cars widely. And then, there's just plain old skepticism from people, worries about safety, systems failing, those tricky ethical choices the car has to make. That hits public trust hard and slows down how quickly people adopt it.
Okay, so big hurdles. But despite those, there are definite trends pushing CAP forward. You mentioned CAP might end up as a sort of high-end option within this bigger service thing, mobility as a service, or MaaS. How do those two ideas, owning your own autonomous car versus using a shared service, actually fit together?
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. CAP is about your car driving itself. MaaS, think robotaxi fleets, that's the shared service side. CaaP could become the premium, personalized autonomous choice within that bigger MaaS world. Maybe you own your CaaP for daily stuff, but grab a MaaS vehicle for a specific trip. And speeding all this up, we're seeing way more collaboration. Tech giants, Waymo, NVIDIA, Baidu, Apple, they're teaming up with car makers. They're providing the whole package. Sensors, software, the decision-making brain, that speeds up development massively.
So it's not just what the car does, but how it knows exactly where it is and what's going on around it. What's driving that level of precision?
Precisely. A key thing enabling all this is the huge growth in localization and mapping tech. Things like edge computing, processing data right in the car for instant reactions and HD mapping. These create super detailed, constantly updated 3D maps of roads, curbs, everything. That's crucial. Combine that with massive data gathering and tons of simulation testing. It's constantly making these systems better, more robust for actual consumers. It's like a non-stop innovation cycle. So when we peel it all back, it's complex, right? We see these incredible tech advances and people really wanting Capri. But we also see the friction, the huge costs, the tangled global rules, and people still being a bit wary. It's this fascinating push and pull between owning your own smart car and using these shared mobility services.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, it means the way you interact with vehicles could change fundamentally, and maybe sooner than you think, whether you own it or just use it like a subscription.
Right. And as this autonomous tech gets more woven into our lives, here's something to chew on. How will that very idea of car ownership keep changing? Will it be some blend of personal cars and shared services? And maybe more importantly, what new ethical questions will you face as these intelligent vehicles make complex decisions on their own, becoming an even bigger part of society? Something to think about until our next deep dive.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.